February 19th, 2023. 7th Sunday in Ordinary Time. First reading. Leviticus chapter 19. Verses 1 to 2, 17 to 18. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the whole Israelite community and tell them, Be holy, for I, the Lord, your God, am holy. You shall not bear hatred for your brother or sister in your heart. Though you may have to reprove your fellow citizen, do not incur sin because of him. Take no revenge and cherish no grudge against any of your people. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord." Responsorial Psalm. The Lord is kind and merciful. Second reading. 1 Corinthians chapter 3. Verse 16 to 23. Brothers and sisters, do you not know that you are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy that person, for the temple of God, which you are, is holy. Let no one deceive himself. If anyone among you considers himself wise in this age, let him become a fool so as to become wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness in the eyes of God. For it is written, God catches the wise in their own ruses, and again, the Lord knows the thoughts of the wise, that they are vain. So let no one boast about human beings. For everything belongs to you. Paul or Apollos or Cephas, or the world or life or death, or the present or the future. All belong to you, and you to Christ, and Christ to God. Gospel. Jesus' teaching about retaliation and love of enemies. Matthew chapter 5, verse 38 to 48. Jesus said to his disciples, You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, offer no resistance to one who is evil. When someone strikes you on your right cheek, turn the other one to him as well. If anyone wants to go to law with you over your tunic, hand him your cloak as well. Should anyone press you into service for 1 mile, go with him for 2 miles. Give to the one who asks of you, and do not turn your back on one who wants to borrow. You have heard that it was said, You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your heavenly Father, for he makes his sun rise on the bad and the good, and causes rain to fall on the just and the unjust. For if you obey those who love you, what recompense will you have? Do the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet your brothers only, what is unusual about that? Do the pagans do the same? So be perfect, just as your heavenly Father is perfect. Reflection. The way to perfection. Perfect translates the Greek teleos, sometimes rendered as complete. Perfection or completeness is not to be lacking in anything. In this sense, only God is perfect. Everyone or everything is imperfect. But this is from the philosophical point of view. The biblical sense rather points to the actuation of God. And in the context of Jesus' declaration in the Gospel, God's perfection has to do with God's love and forgiveness. The Heavenly Father takes care both of the just and the unjust. Imitation of God's perfection then lies in the disciples' willingness and capacity to love both their neighbor and their enemy. For the Jews, the neighbor would be their fellow Jew, and the enemy would be the outsider, a pagan or a Samaritan. The Lucan parallel of perfect is to be merciful. Luke chapter 6, verse 36. In Leviticus, God commands the whole community of Israel, "Be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy." First reading. What follows is the list of God's precepts attributed to the priestly collection, including the Decalogue commandments of revering one's parents, keeping holy the Lord's day, Sabbath, and not making or worshiping idols. It also forbids stealing, wrongly using God's name, and swearing falsely against another. Israel's covenant with the Lord binds them to live holy lives by maintaining moral righteousness as well as ritual purity. In the Gospel, Jesus points out that those who imitate God's perfection ought to exercise the Father's magnanimous love for all His children. Jesus points to the observance of the Decalogue and points to something more, not by attending to the minute details of the law like what the Pharisees and the teachers of the law are doing, but pointing to the heart and the spirit of the law. And the heart that truly loves and is inspired by the Spirit aspires to return good for evil, turning the other cheek, offering one's cloak, walking the extra mile, lending to the poor, and loving one's enemies. Pope Francis invites young people, and all of us, to put our talents at the service of the gospel, with creativity and boundless charity. At Pontifex, Twitter.com. The 7th of December 2013. It is not a charity that costs nothing and does not hurt. True charity requires courage, patience, and tenderness. And it grows along the way. It never stands still. Christus vivit. The ability to discern pathways where others only see walls, to recognize potential where others see only peril. That is how God the Father sees things. He knows how to cherish and nurture the seeds of goodness sown in the hearts of the young.